Everything that you know about discipline is wrong. My name is Craig Ballantyne. I'm the host of Early to Rise Radio. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you see a picture of me shirtless in the freezing cold waters of Vancouver on New Year's Day doing a polar bear plunge because, that's what everybody does. Now, listen, that doesn't mean I'm disciplined. That does not mean I'm disciplined. So if you do cold plunges, doesn't mean you're disciplined. If you work out twice a day, it doesn't mean you're disciplined. Everything that you know about discipline is wrong. Suffering is not discipline. And today you're going to learn the true definition of discipline. You're going to learn how to be insanely disciplined in 2025. But it actually has nothing to do with doing hard things. That's what everybody thinks. Oh man, I'd do a 30-second cold shower in the morning to prove to myself I can do hard things. That's not hard things. I'll tell you what's hard things. I just lived in Mexico for 3 years, and every single workday, 6 days a week, these workers would work outside in, 85 degrees Fahrenheit, pounding sun, 90% humidity, 8 hours a day. They would build houses. That's a hard thing. 30 seconds in the shower is a first world hard thing. That's not a hard thing. And you're not disciplined if you do 30 seconds of a cold shower. All right, let's get serious, because people are really messing up the definition of discipline, and that's why they're not hitting their goals. So in this session today, what you're going to learn is the number one question that you must answer to make sure that you're disciplined. Then the biggest mistake that you can make on your path to discipline, and how discipline can destroy your life like it did mine about 15 years ago, and how it did to a friend of mine named Chuck. You're also going to learn the true definition of discipline. You're going to learn how to beat porn, procrastination, etc. And you're going to understand why standards eat discipline for breakfast. Now, before we get into all of that, I want to go over quickly how discipline nearly destroyed my life and how it destroyed the life of a friend of mine named Chuck. So first, we'll start with Chuck. It's a real sad story. Chuck had everything. He had it all. He was married. He was rich. He had 2 great kids. He had a red sports car. He had bulging biceps. He had 6-pack abs. He had everything. Everything. And then he saw one of these online challenges, and all these people were doing it, so he had to go be a lemming like I was on New Year's Day going into the ocean, just like thousands of people in here in Vancouver. My friend Chuck joined this online discipline challenge, and he spent all his time doing it and all his other time working, and his wife got sick of it and walked out on him with the kids. Now he's finished his discipline challenge not once but twice, but is now divorced. How is that disciplined? It's not. And he destroyed his life chasing another person's definition of discipline. And for me, I put myself in a discipline prison years ago because I got a lot of positive recognition from people about being productive and being disciplined. And I led a very rigid life. I put myself in a prison of my own design. And so there's a dark side to discipline. It's a double-edged sword. Yeah, it can be a lifeline for you at first if you're really messing up, with porn, with alcohol, etc. But once you know what you need in life, you need to stop chasing other people's definition of discipline and answer this question. What is your specific definition of discipline? When you wake up on January 1st and say, I want to be more disciplined this year, what the heck does that even mean? That's like saying, I want to get rich this year. Well, if you say you want to get rich and you have $100 in your bank account, that might mean having $10,000 in your bank account. If someone has $10 million in their bank account and says, I want to get rich this year, that's, everybody's got a different definition of rich. Everyone has a different definition of discipline. We need to know what's your specific definition of discipline. And so we need to really break that down and figure out what matters before we can start building up to peak discipline. And the way that we start this is by going through your values and vision. They drive every decision. Your values are what really matter to you over the course of your lifetime that are not going to change. For me, I've always been a family-oriented person. I've always been a hard worker. I've always believed in entrepreneurship. I've always believed in fitness. These are core values in my life that are always going to be with me. And so reading a book a week, I like books, but I don't think you have to read a book a week to be disciplined. And I'm not going to go and sacrifice those other areas of my life to read a book a week. But a lot of people do. They start exercising twice a day, neglecting their marriages, just like my friend Chuck. And it got him into a lot of trouble because he was not operating according to his values. He was not operating according to his life vision. Everybody should have a vision for their life, which is basically like a movie script of here how my life is going to work out. And it's going to work out amazing. And then you stick to the script. But what Chuck did is he was on the path and then he got, he gave away his standards and he chased somebody else's definition of discipline. So first you have to figure out what matters to you. You figure out your core values, then you create a vision, a movie script for your life, and you use that as your North Star to stay on the straight line to success and say no to every detour. And if you do that, you're a disciplined person because your values and vision are like the bedrock on which a house is built. So first it's values, then the vision, then the routines, then the habits, then the daily actions, the daily decisions. And you can see if you're watching this on YouTube, you see see a visual, and you can understand that the values are the bedrock in which the house is built. When I went to church as a young man, and one of my mom's favorite songs was, "On Christ the solid rock we stand, all other ground is sinking sand." And it's the same with our values, for our discipline, for our actions, for our life. If we're not rooted in our values, we're easily strayed in chasing other people's definitions of discipline. Remember, most of these online challenges are random choice of activities, like cold plunging or exercising twice a day. Like, why exercising twice a day and not 3 times a day? Like, wouldn't you be more disciplined if you did 3 times a day? What about 4 times a day? What if you work out 4 times a day? Would you be twice as disciplined as the person who worked out twice a day? And anybody who tells me they work out twice a day, it just shows me like you're just procrastinating on life, because you should be doing a whole lot of other things than working out twice per day. So I get pretty fired up on this stuff because I have seen these dark side of discipline challenges destroy people's lives. And the biggest mistake that you can make is chasing another person's definition of discipline. It is the least disciplined thing you can do. You can't even stay on your own path. And so you see somebody say, well, when I wake up in the morning, I do a cold plunge like Tony Robbins, and then I do green juicing, and then I do a 20-minute meditation like Ray Dalio, transcendental meditation too. It has to be transcendental meditation. And then I go and do this, and I go and do this, and I go and do oil pulling. If you don't know what oil pulling is, look it up. It's ridiculous. And I do 19 things, and I got to go ground outside. And then okay, great. You do all these things. You're chasing somebody else's definition of success because you're not staying on your own path. There are billionaires who have never worked out. They've never done hardly any of these things. Taylor Swift, as far as I know, does not cold plunge, and yet she had $1 billion tour. And so what are you going to say? Oh, you don't cold plunge, you're not disciplined. You do 4-hour shows per night, but you don't do cold plunging. Like, it's such ridiculous baloney. And so you need to know what matters to you. You need to know what matters to you. If everybody else is out there reading a book a week, but you know that all you need to do is read the Bible over and over and over again, 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, and you never read another book, does that make you not disciplined? Of course not. Silliness. So the true discipline definition, and before we get to that, I need to help you understand that, again, the mistake around discipline is what people are doing is they're putting what we call a level 10 mismatch in their lives. So just think about the biggest problems in your life. Maybe your marriage, maybe you're overweight, maybe you watch pornography, maybe you drink too much, maybe, I had a former client who messaged me over the New Year's break. He said, I was hungover 66 days in 2024. Oh my gosh, you got a level 10 problem there, my friend. And what level of effort are you putting into solving that problem? Obviously, you weren't putting much of an effort into it. You have a mismatch between your level 10 problem and the effort you're putting into it. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been hungover 66 days in a year. It's insane. Imagine the productivity that was lost to that. And so what people are doing in their lives is that they have a level 10 problem. They're avoiding it through, I shouldn't use this phrase, motivational masturbation is what these ice baths are. It's like, oh yeah, man, I'm getting in there, doing hard things. But what's it doing for your marriage, right? Reading a book a week. What's that doing for your relationship with your wife when you're too busy reading to go and talk to them? So level 10 problem, level 1 effort is the mismatch that we see in so many people because they are, perverse forms of procrastination. The true definition of discipline is putting a level 10 effort into your level 10 problems. So right now, just think, what are the 3 biggest problems in your life? What are the 3 biggest problems in your life? You're not spending enough time on sales in your business. You're doing social media, doing all these other things, but man, learning how to sell is hard. You're too afraid to pick up the phone and do cold calling. You're too afraid to study a sales script. So you get on sales calls and, you wing it and you don't make any sales. You need to put a level 10 effort in that level 10 problem. Or maybe your level 10 effort is that your health is in really bad shape, but you do all these other things. You work more, you make more money, you read more books, but you don't put the effort into your health and it becomes a worse problem. Relationships is another one, obviously. People are doing all these things. They don't have time to have the difficult conversations. Having a difficult conversation with anybody, whether it's a team member or whether it's a spouse or whether it's your children, difficult conversations are really hard and people avoid them. And you've seen this. Lots of people who need to have a difficult conversation about a level 10 problem in their life and they do not do it. They find a million other things to do. So they're putting a level 1 effort into their level 10 problem. But if you want to be truly disciplined, you don't have to cold plunge. Remember before there was cold plunges, basically cold plunges have been popular for maybe 10 years now. Does that mean no one was disciplined before that? How did anybody get anything done in the 80s? Oh yeah, they just got up and went to work instead of doing all these things to get their mind right. So take out that piece of paper and write it down. 1, 2, 3 of your level 10 problems. We all got problems. And then beside it, write down the level of effort you're putting into it. Maybe you got a really, really bad low back injury. How much of an effort are you putting into solving that? I used to have a receding hairline. I didn't like it. It was a level 10 problem to me. So I got 2 hair transplants. I put a level 11 effort into it. And it was a great decision. I attacked it. And that's what you need to do. So identify your level 10 problems. Do this with your kids. Do this with your spouse. Do this with your team members. Hey, Johnny in operations, what's your level 10 problem right now? Are we putting a level 10 effort into it? One of my mentors, Dan Kennedy, used to talk about how he would go around and work in these businesses, and he would ask them like, hey, what's the biggest problem you guys have? And they would say something, and they'd say, well, what level of effort are you putting into it? And they'd say, I can't fix that problem. You're putting a 0 into it. So understand that all discipline is putting a level 10 effort into your level 10 problems and avoiding all the perverse forms of procrastination that can get in your way. So now we go and we say, what is your specific definition of discipline? When you woke up on January 1st and said you wanted to be more disciplined this year, you need to forget about all those things that are other people's definitions of discipline. So if you woke up and you said, you know what, this year I want a cold plunge. Why do you want a cold plunge? Like, what is that going to bring you? How is that going to solve your level 10 problems? If it's not going to contribute to solving your level 10 problems, then it is not part of your discipline plan. But if you need to lose 30 pounds because your cholesterol is really high and your triglycerides are really high and your family has a risk of colon cancer and all of these things, and there's coronary heart disease in your family, you got a level 10 problem. And yeah, you better lose those 30 pounds. So your specific definition of discipline this year would be to put a level 10 effort into that level 10 problem, which means consulting with a nutritionist, which means getting an accountability partner for your exercise, which means walking 10,000 steps a day, which means eating a certain style, and probably doing some meditation, probably doing some journaling so that you control your emotional regulation to assist in taking care of your coronary heart disease risk. That's your specific definition of discipline. All these other cool things that people are doing, forget about it. Forget about it. You don't need to read a book a week if it's going to stop you from exercising. So your specific definition of discipline, that's the number one question you have to answer for yourself. And now you can build up your identity. Your identity is going to support your habits. James Clear has a very good book called Atomic Habits, and he says every action you take is a vote for the type of person you wish to become. And that's excellent if you've done the values and vision work. Because if you haven't, what most people get wrong is they vote wrong from the start by chasing another person's definition of discipline. And James Clear has another great quote that I didn't put in my slides here, but he says, a lot of really good decisions made later cannot make up for a really bad decision made at the start. And that's not actually a quote. I butchered his quote, but it's really fantastic, because if you go chasing somebody else's definition of discipline and you go down that path and you set up systems to support yourself chasing another person's definition of discipline so it makes it easy, you've got the wrong orientation. Your journey is like going west when you want to go from California to New York. It doesn't matter how fast you go. It doesn't matter what grade of a boat you have. If you go west in the Pacific Ocean and your goal is New York City, it's going to take you a long time to get there. You may as well walk east from LA. You're going to go slower, but you're going to get there because you're going in the right direction. So you must orientate yourself properly first. How do you do that? Step one is to know yourself through the values and vision. When you know your core values, when you know what your life needs to look like, then you can define success by putting a level 10 effort into your level 10 problems, which gets you closer to your North Star. In order to do that, you build effortless discipline systems. Now we're finally getting into what people consider discipline, but only we've done the hard work of thinking first and saying no and eliminating things. So the effortless discipline system phases are: one, elimination of toxic temptation and destroy distractions. Most people think that when you want to get disciplined, you have to add a whole bunch of stuff. Like you have to add the cold plunge, you have to add the green juice. No, you don't. You have to eliminate things. If you want to stop drinking, adding a green juice will not help that much. If you want to stop drinking, not hanging around Fun Bobby, who drinks 20 beers a night from Wednesday through Saturday night and 15 on Sunday afternoon watching NFL football, eliminating him from your life will do far more than any green juice could possibly do for you in getting rid of booze from your life. Using something like the Opal app to block pornography sites or to block text messages or to block your email so that you can focus will do more for your life than a cold plunge for 3 minutes in the morning. So eliminating the toxic temptations and destroying distractions is key. Number two, preparation. You need to properly prepare. You need to make sure that if you want to lose weight, that you plan your meals and prepare them on Sunday so that on Tuesday afternoon, when you're hungry, you have a meal prepared instead of you going over to 7-Eleven and picking something and eating 3 times as many calories as you should. Planning and preparation is the secret ingredient to success. It's the genius behind success. And then through the elimination and preparation, you create automation so that your habits become automatic. And when you do that, now you have these systems in place so that you always make the right decision. And now we can take it to the next level. We have built our effortless discipline systems. And because we started with the right orientation, we can now apply James Clear's quote that every vote we take is for for our new identity. So every time we follow the effortless discipline systems and do the right thing for our level 10 problem based on our values and vision, we change our identity. This is how I quit swearing years ago. I quit swearing in 4 days because I'm not the type of person who swears anymore. And then I eliminated the triggers that made me swear, and I got accountability to it. To everyone on my email list, I said, I'm done swearing. And I quit swearing for good in 4 days. And now I'm the polite and courteous British gentleman who doesn't swear. Although I don't have a British accent, obviously, but my role model for that was a British man, a guy named Barry Dunlop, who's a good friend of mine. He doesn't swear. And so I said, I'm going to be like Barry, a polite and courteous British gentleman who does not swear. So now I shifted my identity. And then once you shift your identity, you can create higher standards for yourself. Standards are the rules for your life, your personal operating system. I wrote about my 12 rules for living in my 2015 book, Perfect Day Formula. And I wrote those rules for my life 4 years before that in 2011. And they were based on my values and vision, and they have not changed. They have not changed in nearly 15 years. I still follow all of my rules. And so that's what you need. You need these standards because standards eat discipline for breakfast. So if you're relying on discipline and willpower and you're white knuckling your way through life, trying to hold off from making a bad decision, eventually you're going to give in. And I use this little story. I used it in the Perfect Day Formula. I'm going to use it again in my new book. But imagine you had two people and they were at a party and they had been sitting there for 4 hours and there was no food. And they were really hungry, both of them. And they brought out cheeseburgers. Oh, double patty. You know, they had two different types of cheese, bacon, pickles, ketchup. Man, they had some special sauce that people were loving. It was the best cheeseburger anybody had ever had. Now, both of them wanted to say no to the cheeseburger because they were trying to lose weight. And one of them was a vegan. And the other one loved to eat cheeseburgers. But he had to use his willpower and his discipline. But he had been sitting there for 4 hours. He was starving. And all these other people were eating these mouth-watering cheeseburgers while he was sitting there. You think that man and his discipline and his willpower is going to survive that temptation? No, game over. On the other hand, our vegan has standards. He does not eat meat. There's nothing about that cheeseburger that could get him to eat the cheeseburger. Now, he might kind of like, well, let's see, maybe the bun ain't touching any meat and cheese or bacon. You know, it's just touching the special sauce. Oh, is that special sauce vegan? Okay, it's vegan. And it's just touching lettuce. Maybe I can eat like the bun, then technically it's not cheating, right? But otherwise, he ain't eating the cheeseburger. And so standards eat discipline for breakfast. And so the dark side of discipline is relying on discipline for change. When in order to truly change, in order to be insanely disciplined for 2025, is that you must, first of all, identify your values and vision, what really matters to you, so that you can create a specific definition of discipline, so that you can then attack your level 10 problems, so that you can then apply the effortless discipline systems. We got to do a whole bunch of stuff before we even get to what's really called discipline. And then even then, you got to change your identity to make it long-term, and then you set higher standards for yourself. And that's why standards eat discipline for breakfast. So to be insanely disciplined, don't rely on discipline. Willpower doesn't work, and standards are the secret. Man, I'm just fired up on this. I don't want to see anybody get into a prison of discipline. I don't want to see anybody have discipline destroy their lives. Discipline can be a lifeline, but it's also becoming a dark side for so many people who are not getting the results, even though they're doing quote unquote hard things. And so I want to change your life. And that's why I'm writing another book called The Dark Side of Discipline. This is some of the work that's going to be in it. We're going to go deeper into the standards, which are going to change your life, that personal operating system for you so that you don't have to rely on willpower. My name is Craig Ballantyne. I'm the host of Early to Rise Radio. If you haven't already read my Perfect Day Formula book, go to craigballantyne.com/free books and get access to it, or just drop the word perfect down below and we'll send you a copy. And I can't wait to unpack standards in a future episode. All right, we're going to show you how to be more disciplined, insanely disciplined, not only in 2025, but for the rest of your life.